Hello and welcome. Today I've got here a Goblin mini from Vae Victis minis. They had a really great set a few months ago with like a Goblin ambush. It reminded me a lot of my very first D&D campaign, The Lost Mines of Phandelver, so I printed out a whole bunch of them. But today I'm going to do something a little bit different. The Honest Wargamer, about a month ago, released a video called the SlapChop technique. I'll put a link down in the description below. And honestly, I've been thinking about it for the past month. So I wanted a nice, easy way of painting my goblins because, let's face it, when you're running goblins, you're running a lot of goblins. So I have base coated him in black. This is just, it's not even an official wargaming Citadel or army painter. It's just Rust-Oleum black from the hobby shop up the road. And I'm going to be doing the SlapChop technique. Let's take a look. This technique starts off with a black undercoat and a couple of dry brushes. Honest Wargamer started off with, I think, Vallejo light grey. I can't get Vallejo in my country, so I've got just some Administratum grey, which I think is a nice light grey. I've got a cheap makeup brush. I've loaded it up, dried it off, so I get a nice dry brush. And now I'm just going to dry brush this goblin. And as you see, the dry brush picks up the detail for the top while leaving the recesses. And I'm going to be quite light with this, with my brush strokes. I don't want to go too overboard and lose those recesses, because the whole point of the SlapChop technique is contrast. So you see, when I've got the lines that way, I'll run my brush that way. When I've got shadows that way, I'll run my brush downward, and just sort of take my time doing a couple passes of this light grey. And then with a pure white of your choice, I've got your Army Painter matte white. I'm going to do a much lighter dry brush just on the top. So just to make sure I'm not going overboard, I'm going to use a tip I picked up from Sonic Sledgehammer. And that is just dry brush the edge there. You'll see that's quite heavy on the white right now. So let me just rub a bit more off on my tissue paper. Let's see. There we go, that's a bit better. So with that, just picking out a few of the brighter spots. So there, maybe there, top of the shield. And this really isn't taking me long. To be honest, this is quite quick. Let's see how this looks. I've just changed my camera setup so I can get a lot more in frame. I've got here some Plague Bearer Flesh contrast paint. So the whole point of the SlapChop method is, over this I'm now going to apply my contrast paints. I'm going to use this for the goblin skin, and if I've done everything right, it's going to get a nice overall tint to that, while still keeping the difference between the different shades of the black to the grey to the white. And I'll do the same there on his little hands and any other exposed goblin flesh areas. That's applied, so you can see the effect there. You get really nice highlights on the knee and the nose, whereas the other leg is a bit more in shadow. So moving on, I've got here some Blood Angel red, a nice, rich, vivid red, which I really like for my D&D enemies. And this I'm going to use quite a large area. I'm going to use this for his cloak. And this will really point out to my party of first levelers that this is a bad guy. Hit them. With that red applied, looking nice and vibrant, so I'm going to move on to another nice warm color. I've got here some Gore Grunts of fur. This is a nice reddish brown color. I'm going to use this for this sort of leather armor. Let's get a little bit less on my brush. So there's little, what would you call these, arm guards, and his shoulder guard over there, and as well as I'll pick out his little belt. Moving on to something a bit darker, I have here some wildwood, and this will be used for his shield as well as his boots. I must say, brown is one of the most versatile colors when you're painting something like D&D miniatures, so I often like to have, rather, a lot of various shades of brown. So this I like for that dark old wood, whereas the Gorgrunter fur is much better for like treated leather. And then some skeleton horde, which is a nice bony color, I'll use for his shirt. So far I've been very impressed with these light colors to really show that undertone. But let me try something a bit darker. I've got here some dark angel green, which is a very dark green, and let's see if it still does the trick. Not as obvious, but you still have that. Look at that. Finally, for the metals, there's no metallic contrast, but I've got here some basilicanum grey, and this will give the effect of it looking like grey steel. Might be a bit too dark. Let's see how that goes. There for the sword and for the helmet. There we go. That took way less time than what I thought. I'm going to let it dry so I can see the effect of the contrast paint properly, and I'll just pop a nice easy little base on him, and we'll be right back with my final thoughts. I've decided to go with just a simple black base because honestly, if I were to do any other base, it would take me longer to do the base than it would for this entire mini. And I mean, look at that result. This was honestly a matter of minutes. I think I spent more time prepping and getting this mini ready than I did actually painting him. And I love the results. It's cartoonish, it's vibrant, it's eye-catching. And if I compare this to something just on the side here, this is another mini that I painted with contrast. Yes, it's vivid, but it's just bright. Whereas with the SlapChop method, you get a lot better recess shading. Compare the reds there. I'm honestly very impressed, and I could see myself painting an entire army of this. So thank you to the Honest Wargamer for your video. Once again, it will be in the description, so you can see what preparation is needed. And honestly, it's not a lot. Great results, great technique. Go ahead, watch that video if you haven't.